Welcome back to So What's Your Process, the show where we talk with creatives from all different fields about what they do and how they do it. I'm Kyle Dalsimer.
And I'm Allie Dalsimer.
And Allie, you brought us a really exciting guest today, didn't you?
Yes, I'm super excited. Today's guest has had 3 top 40 Billboard R&B hits, 2 in the top 15. He's earned multiple Josie and California Music Video Awards and a Global Music Award. Welcome to the show, Mr. Antoine Dunn.
Hello. Thank you so much, Kyle and Allie, for having me. It's a tremendous pleasure, and we've been in contact for I want to say more than a year, Allie. Just kind of following each other. So it's nice that things have finally culminated in us having a chance to sit down and talk. I really appreciate being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited about it too. Yeah, I've been following your music and catching those clips every now and then, and haven't had a chance to see a full show yet, but that's in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would love that.
So Antoine, I wanna take it all the way back. So you're originally from Cleveland, and I think that a lot of people don't realize that Cleveland's music scene is so incredibly influential. I mean, you can take it back to Adam Freed and the birth of rock and roll. You can talk about, Body Records, one of the first Black-owned record companies who were kind of a real launching pad for artists trying to get onto Motown. And then in the gospel scene, you've got the Shields Brothers. You've got your aunt was a gospel singer. And so coming up in a city like Cleveland, I'm curious, how has that impacted your growth and your development as an artist?
Wow. I mean, that's okay. So Cleveland, yes, I am originally from Cleveland, Ohio. I'd say Cleveland is a place that is a place of hidden opportunity. A lot of people really don't know the historical roots of Cleveland as a music town. And some people, I mean, these days, some people know, but a lot of people don't know the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have so many great artists, even in the R&B genre, the OJs and groups like that. But I think that being in Cleveland has been extremely influential in terms of shaping my perspective and just my musical vocabulary. It's just been incredible. One day I was, where was I at? I was playing in a church. I'm a musician, and I was playing in a church. There's this guy who used to work the video and the audio board. And he said, "Man, have you ever thought about doing music for film or television?" And I said, "No." And he said, "Well, you should come to my house. I have an opportunity for you." He was a veteran editor for film and television. And he had a scene. And he would always observe me when I was in church. I had no idea he was observing me, but I would always play music when the preacher was praying. And he would tell me "Hey, you have a way of just complimenting whatever the preacher is saying, whatever he's speaking about in a really organic way. And you could probably contribute that to film and television." And so anyway, through that relationship, I ended up meeting really influential and powerful music producer from Cleveland named Tony Nicholas. So, but yeah, I don't want to jump ahead or anything like that. But yeah, Cleveland was a really great place. Really great place.
That's so fascinating. And it's really cool that, the sort of getting sort of discovered in the first place
in church.
And that's the thing. So you did start, you were the music director at the Cuyahoga Community Church. And I was going to ask about that transition from, faith music into more secular music and that transition. So that's really, really interesting.
How that process came
about.
It's also interesting. It's very much who you know and having mentors and people who will support you as well.
Yeah.
So
mm-hmm. Yeah, I think my start ironically was in my bedroom, actually in my brother's bedroom. My brother is studying music. I think he was the person everybody always knew he wanted to do music, but I was one of the people where it's for whatever reason music kind of chose me. And then, one day I thought I was in love. And then, and I got my little, heart broken. And then, so I would like sneak upstairs to my brother's room. He had a piano up there. And I would sneak up there when he wasn't home. And I would teach myself how to play the piano. And I would write, about getting my heart broken and stuff like that. So that's kind of like how it started. Um, and then at one point, I got a call to play like at a restaurant that was opening. And it was funny because I really didn't know that many songs. I probably knew like 6 songs, but I was supposed to play for 45 minutes. you know, it was really kind of interesting, like how I made that work. But anyway, and then from that opportunity, um, that's how I got the opportunity to play at the church. And even like preceding that, I had never played any church uh, songs or anything. I went to church because both my parents were very religious and devout Christians. However, I was on the usher board. Like I was just like greeting people and like, "Hey, welcome to church. I can walk you to your pew," like that kind of thing. But like, I had no idea that I would get into music in such a serious way, and then it kind of just took over. But yeah.
That's such a
My
funny
grandmother
story.
used
I
to
love
love
that.
the usher boys. There was
Yeah.
always these young men wearing their little suits and ties, and she would, come in. She's this little petite thing, and they'd lead her to her seat, and she would just be like, "Thank you." She just loved. She's like that handsome young man. Didn't matter who it was.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's really awesome. So that does lead me to, because you've talked about how life experiences inform your music and your creative process. And so you talked about having your heart broken and being in the church and then teaching yourself piano. Like you're a self-made musician, really, which is very
Yeah.
impressive. But how have all those experiences come together to influence the development of the way you go about creating?
That's a great question. It's a great question. I want to go back. Well, I want to go back to a period where I I had this night that kind of like turned my whole life around. Um, and so preceding this night at this world-renowned jazz club in Cleveland, um, I had met this guy. And the reason I met this guy, he owned a recording studio. And somebody reached out to me on Facebook and they were like, "Hey, we heard about this songwriter named Antoine in Cleveland." And they thought I was the guy that they were looking for, but I wasn't the guy they were looking for. But they didn't find this out until later. So I show up to the studio and they start talking to me about all these opportunities with this producer named Timberland, which a lot of people know about Timberland. And uh, they were like, "Hey, we're looking to put some songs together, and we're looking to be a part of his camp and submit songs and all of this." And then, so I played some songs, and then the guy that was there, he was completely unimpressed with me. I mean, it was kind of hilarious. It's like when you watch American Idol or something, and like Simon's just like sitting there with a straight face, and like somebody really thinks they're doing their best, and they're like, "Yo, this is for me. I know I'm good," and everybody's like, "Yeah, right, whatever."
Raymond's
it
like,
was,
it's gonna be a no from me, dog.
yeah, it's gonna be a hard no for me. So it was like that. And so, but what happened was the owner of the studio ended up coming into the session where I was showing the producer who was in the studio, an engineer, what I was doing. And then he was so impressed with me that he got in like this full-blown argument with the people who were running the studio. This is a true story. And I don't know how this happened or why it happened, but the next day I was working at Walgreens in the photo department of all places. So I'm like developing, 60-minute photography, roles or whatever. And the guy who owned the studio ends up walking into my job, and he walks up to the counter and he says, "This is your last day." True story.
Whoa.
Yeah. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" And he says, "Well, I've never had anyone come to my studio who sounded the way you did, but who moved me emotionally the way that you did." And he said, "I just don't think you should be working this job."
Wow.
And yeah, and he said, "This is your last day." And um, so then what ended up happening through a series of events, that guy became very important in my life. Um, named Naram Pollard, and it's a really great guy. And then at any rate, through a series of events, we ended up losing the studio. I didn't know what I was gonna do, and I was really sad. And one night, um, a friend of mine calls and he says, "Hey, we should go to this jazz club." And so I didn't want to go. So I said, "No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm sad." You know how sometimes you're sad and you want to get over, and then sometimes you're sad, and you're like, "No, I'm going to be sad for 3 weeks straight." And like, you're like, nobody's going to come and like make me feel better because I don't want to feel better. Like I was like in that kind of thing. And then, but he was so persistent. I hung up the phone and he called me back. He says, "Man, we gotta go." And then eventually I said, "Okay, man, fine, whatever. If you're gonna just keep calling me on repeat, I'll go." Um, and anyway, a friend of mine's playing piano that day, and the phone rings. And the bartender says, "Oh, we just got prank phone call. That was so weird." And we're like, "Well, what did they say?" "Oh, they said Stevie Wonder was on his way." And so, yeah, it was just kind of like, but it was just like this whole thing. Like everybody's like, "Oh yeah, Stevie Wonder in Cleveland, Ohio for what? Like he doesn't live here." And
And
There's a lot of
then
music going on in Cleveland. I don't know.
and and so as it would happen, as the universe would have it, we were enjoying my friend playing music, and then I go to the bathroom, I come out, and the table sitting next to me is Stevie Wonder sitting right there.
oh God.
I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, but it was, I mean, it was like a real thing. And my friend named Jackie Warren, who's a phenomenal jazz pianist from Cleveland, she takes a break and she comes over to the table and she says, "Antoine, you're incredibly talented and you may not get another opportunity like this. And I know that you want to come and do a song." And I said, "Okay." So, and this is the long way around. Because you asked me about my process and how my life had informed my process with writing music. But after I ended up playing a beautiful love song that I wrote called "I Do." And as soon as I finished playing the song, Stevie and his handlers called me over to the table, and he told me, he said, "Man, whatever your process is," he said, "don't abandon that process because it's working for you."
Wow.
And so now I can come back to like my process and like how life informs my process. I think it's impossible to create art without having lived life first. That's in my case. There are people who have a particular set of skills, or they go to school or college, trade school, um, and then some of them have a passion for something and some don't, and then they kind of marry that whole thing together. But for me, it's like, how could you have something to say if you haven't lived life first?
Exactly.
I feel
And
like
how,
the universe is conspiring to help you succeed.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like accidental success.
Yeah,
You know,
things right place, right time.
right place,
I'll
right time,
also
and also
say,
being ready, right? What
yeah,
happens when preparation
preparation
meets
meets
opportunity?
opportunity. But I'll
So,
also say I completely agree with, making art, and I think it goes beyond music. I think any art form, you can't make art without lived experiences. Whether you're a musician, whether you're an actor, whether you're a writer, a filmmaker, anything. I think that life experience is so integral, which leads me to, I think that something that's really really cool about your music is that it is very very well rounded. You've got beautiful instrumentation, structure, melodies, things like that, but you've also got, I find that you often have a really really specific story that you're
yeah.
telling in your lyrics.
See.
And so it makes me curious, what comes first for you? Is it the instrumentation? Is it finding a melody? Is it lyric? Is it a story? Is it,
I was going to ask
what is
that.
it?
The emotion, the rhythm, I was going to ask that same question.
It's oh, wow. I think I always get this word wrong. Myriad.
Yeah,
Is that right?
myriad.
Okay. Yeah, it's a myriad of things that can happen, because for me, I think spiritually, I try my best just to be in the flow of life. If you imagine life being like water going through a water hose, it's like, can you imagine what life would be like if you take the water hose and just squeeze it like this? Nothing would be able to flow through that water hose. So for me, being in the flow is essentially the idea that, okay, maybe I get a lyric first in a particular instance, or maybe I get a melody, or maybe I hear a chord structure. I get songs in dreams. Like 2 weeks ago, I got a song in a dream. Um, and I, and in that dream, I got the vocal progression like in my mind in full harmony in that dream. And then, I mean, and in 2022, I remember it was the morning of the Super Bowl. I had another dream, and it's always like right before I wake up. It's like this, how like when you go to the doctor and they don't put you under, but they put you in like that dream phase.
Mm.
Yeah,
Like if you have certain procedures, I mean, it's not true anesthesiology,
yeah.
but it's just like that phase where you're just a little woozy and you're like, I know something happened, but I don't know what. Like, it's like that. It's like right before I wake up, sometimes I get songs and dreams. It's
Wow.
pretty, yeah,
And
it's pretty
are you
crazy.
able to, so you're able to keep those in your head? You don't lose them after the dream? Because I'll say, I'm not in the music, in like the music making space anymore. I perform other people's music, and I write. But I
Mhm.
don't. But I sometimes have that, and then I'll have a dream where like the song is there, and I've got the melody, and then I wake up and I'm like,
It's gone.
it's gone,
Yeah.
it's gone, and I
Mhm.
remember it being good, but I don't
Mhm.
remember what it was.
Yeah, I think like there's a chance that you could lose songs. I mean, I've probably had more songs and dreams uh, brought to me than I've actually been able to capture. And, you know, um, because part of it is like your sleep. So it's like, it's there's like this half conscious, half subconscious thing going on. It's like, what's happening, but what's happened to me in times where I don't remember the song is that I fall back asleep.
Yeah.
So, you know, but in the case of like, a couple of days ago, it's like, okay, I roll over, pull out my voice recorder with no voice. Obviously, you're asleep. So, and then you're trying to remember the key of the song. So you're trying to sing into your voice recorder. I mean, and then I'm trying to get everything out. It's like if you imagine like just a scratch sheet of paper and somebody like trying to find a pen or anything to write with. and then they're just writing everything down as fast as they can because they know there's an opportunity of a lifetime within the lifetime of that opportunity. And they know they could lose it. So they're just trying to write everything down as fast as they can so that when they come back to it, they can kind of like unpack it and decode it and then, okay, build it the way it's supposed to be built.
Wow.
I love that. There's a lifetime of opportunity in the opportunity of that lifetime.
Wow. No, I love that.
Yeah.
So
I need to write that
I,
down.
Yeah.
I think that I need to. I think that's my problem. I fall back asleep is what happens, and I have that with stories too. When I for writing things, I have that where like I come up with like a great concept for a story, or like I see it, and then I'm like, oh, I'm gonna remember that when I wake up, and I fall back asleep, and I'm like, ah, it's gone.
A lot of your process seems to be very instinctual. Like you just taught yourself to play piano and you took this opportunity and you just went with your gut and played and performed and learned. And I'm sure you're still doing that. And I'm wondering if there's anything that you had sort of an instinct for early on that you really maybe didn't trust in terms of how you create your music or writing music maybe. But now it's like it's part and parcel. It's a core. It's a foundation of how you operate and how you function as an artist.
It's a great question. For me, man, everything's yes and no with me sometimes. But so let me pick a side this time. I would say yes. And I would say most artists are very creative, almost exclusively. But for me, I'm extremely analytical. Uh, Everything is planned, it's thought out, it's meticulously curated and just analyzed and like but I think when I first like started collaborating with other people, a lot of times I admired these people so much that I I would just abandon the idea that whatever came to me first was probably the best thing, or at least the most organic thing that I would do without having to try to be something or be somebody that I wasn't. So I think that like as time went on, um, I just learned to not overcomplicate, the ideas. Like if they come, I trust that they're good and that they serve a purpose. The way that they were brought to me, I think this is like bigger than us. I think we as people have a role in what happens because we have the ability with our free will to either accept or reject something that the universe brings us. But I don't think anything necessarily comes from us except obedience or being rebellious. Like I think what everything is flowing through us, in my opinion. Like we're vessels and we carry messages and you know we do things like that. But um so anyway, yeah, it's just like I feel like I'm just being more obedient. Like, hey, okay, if God brings me a song, I trust that that song is supposed to be delivered in that way.
I love that. I think
It's
that
very Bruce Lee.
it is very
Let it
Bruce Lee. It's like
flow.
let it flow, and
Just be in the moment.
it's very stoicism as well. Letting what
Yeah.
will be. It does lead me to wondering, talking about letting God lead you in that way. I think there's something really interesting, and with your background of playing, being the music director for a church choir. And for church music in general, even in your music today, I find sometimes, specifically in the chord structure that that you choose, it feels like there is some influence of church music, and I'm
Or
wondering,
the divine.
is that an intentional thing? Does that come from just years of being in that space and that being a sound that you feel and love? Where does that come from?
Yeah, I mean, respectfully, right? I don't know that I would agree simply because
I love that. Respectfully, respectfully, you're wrong.
No. It's not. It's not. It's not that you're wrong. It's just that I think there's like this tendency to like I don't know, associate like someone's experience like directly correlated with their the work that they create, perhaps.
Mm.
And like in my opinion, I don't think that that's always true. Like I think that like um okay, now this is something that is true about what you said though. I love the organ.
Yes,
I absolutely love the organ.
it's a beautiful
Right.
instrument.
But I think this is what I'm getting at. I think that is multiple ways to arrive at one location.
Mm.
And I think that what happens a lot of times for us, like stateside, it's like we have these common paths, right? If you were to look at like, I don't know, every famous singer for the last 40 years, let's say they're an R&B singer, in their bio somewhere, it's gonna be like, this person sang in church and they were just singing, and it's like, and it's like, and at some point I considered taking that out of my bio simply because of the implications of it, because I know what that might make someone think. But my experience like playing in church was far different from what most people's experience was. Like what I got from listening to music was R&B records.
Mm.
And like Tank would be a contemporary example. Like if you listen to Tank's first album, he had a song on his album called Slowly. And the song starts, and it's all live instrumentation. And the song starts as piano, it's organ, it's drums, bass. I mean, it's the whole thing. But it's an R&B record. And in the same way, like I would listen to a lot of Anthony Hamilton. But it's like now whether the people who were producing these guys' music were really, just like, I don't know, heavily influenced by gospel music, like I don't know. But what I know is some of those flavors they got to me by studying R&B and soul music.
That's fascinating. Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when you eat a dish, it's just like you don't know, like that chef may have gotten that flavor from over here, whereas it might be common knowledge that that approach to making that dish comes from over here, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that was how it was introduced to him.
Yeah.
It doesn't make it wrong or right. It makes it. I think what happens a lot of times is it just increases the probability for people to, like kind of like turn your story this way or turn your story that way. And not saying that you're doing that. I'm just saying like just I think it happens where a lot of artists feel misunderstood.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yeah.
for that reason, it's like, oh, you're playing guitar, you must have been listening to rock and roll. Not necessarily.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like it you don't know. Like maybe that person just there was a guitar in their room, like and they just like picked it up and they're just like chicka 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 chicka. And then for whatever reason, it starts sounding like something that Jimi Hendrix was known for. But it's just it's just chords and rhythm. Like
Yeah.
I'm on a tangent. Sorry,
No,
guys.
that's
No, you're not,
fascinating.
because what
It's
you're
really,
talking
really
about is
good.
really just absorbing everything, which actually circles back really well to what you said earlier about life experiences influencing your music.
Yeah.
And so it's really getting into the micro level of that, really just absorbing everything right into
Well, and it's
sound
also
itself.
really, really integral to putting together what your process is.
Yeah.
I think that's super, super fascinating.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
So when you're creating a piece of music, or maybe when you're playing it,
Mhm.
do you feel, and this is going to be one of those where you're going to have to say both, I'm going to guess, but I'm just going to ask it anyway. But do you feel like you're more authentic or organic, to use your word, with the story that you're telling, or do you feel that it's just the music speaking for itself?
Wow, that's a good question. I think the music is speaking for itself. I'll give you an example. I have a song that I wrote one time called "Clearer in Love." It's a beautiful song, and I performed it live in New York one night, and I remember listening back to the live recording, and it's like I completely zoned out. I don't remember saying anything that I said. I don't remember anything. But when I listen back to the recording, I'm like setting up the song. So I'm playing the chords and I'm talking to the crowd, and I'm talking about how important that song is to me. But in the same breath, I'm also saying that I have no idea what that song is about.
Mm.
These are words that came to me, and when I play this song, a lot of times people cry. I mean, even before I start singing, like just the figure on the piano and how the notes are moving. Like sometimes they're drawn in, they're emotional, and they're like, "Yo, what is happening to me?" And it's like I don't know because it happened to me too. And so it's like I'm just the messenger, you know. But I would say the music is kind of like speaking for itself. Like I find that for me, in terms of emotional intelligence, I mean, I think I'm okay, you know, but I think when it comes to music is this thing that's just so powerful and so just omni and big that it will awaken like things that have been dormant in you, like that you don't even know that you were carrying. It's just like you sit down at a piano or you pick up a guitar and you're like, man, I didn't know I was feeling this way about that. Or like, oh, I thought I was over that or whatever. Like you really don't know until you strike that first chord or you take that pen and you put it to paper. And that first line, you're like, oh, I had no idea I was feeling this way. I thought I was writing a song about the beach. And then and then it ends up being a sad song that you wrote on the beach. And but in your mind, you're like, hey, well, I'm on the beach though. Like I'm sure I'm gonna make some really great songs. And you think you're gonna like start writing a song about like, hey, the white sand and I'm walking and the sunrise and blah blah blah. And then it's just like, oh, a stolen car and a broken heart, you know. You're just
Old
like, oh,
car and a broken heart.
yeah, you're just like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is where we are. So, but yeah, the songs speak for themselves.
Yeah.
I love
I
that. It's
really,
just
really like
it's
that.
like tapping into something that so many people strive to tap into, which is that sort of inner, I don't know what the word is, that inner energy.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's so much there's so much that even like science can't explain. I mean, like there's all
Yeah.
these studies about like music therapy, like helping people get over and like work through injuries and illnesses. And it's
Mhm.
like there's no scientific explanation. And I always
Have you seen the Instagrams of the guy who plays the guitar out in the wild for animals? They just
and the
come and
animals just
listen
come and they just come to listen.
in the
Exactly. Well,
zoos. Yeah,
there's something, and I at this point I can only call it magic. Is what that thing with music and with art in general. I mean, I tell my acting students to just let the spirit of the story lead them sometimes.
Mhm.
And this is
Mhm.
the spirit of the
This is the
music.
spirit of the music, but I think it's the same spirit of telling that story that's inside, whether or not you know that that's the story that you need to tell or not.
Yeah, because you are a messenger. And I think we all are messengers in a sense. And I think that there's a subconscious element and then there's a conscious element of being a messenger. It's like once you realize that you are a messenger, then there are certain responsibilities um, that you have for the messages that you will allow your vessel to carry. Like, um, for like just for example, like let's just say I was a rapper, which I'm not a rapper, but I write rap songs, right? And I get inspiration to write rap songs. I've written hundreds of rap songs, but nobody's ever heard me rap before. Like I have one song on my last album that I rapped on, but nobody even knows it's me because it doesn't sound like me. And so, and and in my opinion, it's like everything. It's important to know everything that you can do, but that doesn't mean that everything you can do is everything you should do.
Yeah, that's
So
that's yeah, but see,
interesting.
that's so interesting because, so I mean, because you've got a brand and you've got audience expectations. Because the fact is that you do this for a living. You need to make a living doing this, right? So
Mhm.
there's certain expectations that you need to meet from your, to please your audiences. And so I don't know. I mean, maybe you could put out a rap album under a pseudonym, like authors put out things under
They put things
pseudonyms or
under
something.
like
But
fake names.
I'll
Yeah.
try
it begs the question. It begs the question for real. Like, how do you balance that sort of free flow, organic state, maybe experimenting with new sounds or
Mhm.
styles with meeting those audience expectations, those
Yeah.
demands from people who want you to sound a certain way?
These are the questions that get me in trouble. I mean, particularly if I answer them honestly, um, which I'm going to. I've never been into audience audience expectation. The way I approach my art is like this. If you have a particular liking for observing what I do, then you're welcome to observe what I do. But like the idea that I would make something just for the people who enjoyed a specific period of my growth and development is where I gotta draw the line. Simply because I'm not there anymore. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Chevrolet doesn't make the same car even every year. They change something. So, if someone falls in love with a 1974 Chevy Malibu, it's 2025. And then someone says, "Hey man, well, you gotta bring back the 74." And you're like, yeah, but that was like it's like 60 years ago. You're like, I can't do that convincingly anymore. I'm a different person. I'm at a completely different place in my life. Like at that point, I didn't have kids, or I wasn't married, or my parents were alive, or me and my brother were on good terms, or this or that. There's just, life can just be, life is the big if, it's just anything can happen in life, and I mean, it's just, you could do all the right things in life and still wake up and be like, oh man, it rained on my parade.
Yeah.
It-
Yeah. Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, you've talked about the death of your father in mid 2024,
uh,
and how you tried to stay in a state of creativity while healing.
mhm.
And I do hope you're still getting along with your brother. I hope that was not a thing, but
No, that was a true thing. Actually, we are not,
oh,
but
I'm
it,
so sorry.
but these things happen. It's life, actually.
Yeah, it is life. It is life. So what I'm actually wondering is, those things have profound impacts on you as a person, on your psyche, on your emotions, obviously on your creativity. And I'm wondering, how specifically has it impacted your creative process, not just in terms of absolutes, but maybe in terms of the pace that you go or the directions that you move?
To be honest, I would say, it slowed me down. Uh, simply because when you lose a parent, it's like, it's a tough one because, as the child, there might be implications behind that loss. You might have to be an executor of an estate, or you might have to be a power of attorney, or you might have to be this or that. And those things are things that you can't abandon. I mean, depending on your character and things like that. There have been people who just like, look, I'm not going to do it. I don't care. There are those people, but for the people who like to rise to the occasion, when your parents need you at the last time that they will ever need you, you don't have a choice but to prioritize that moment. So everything else stops. And with that, it's like, what are you doing? What are you working on? It's like, okay, you get back to that next year. I mean, I'm literally just getting back to like creating things like now, like the last, I would say 2 months, I'm literally just getting back to like creating. So yeah, it's pretty difficult. It's yet to be determined, kind of like the culmination of it all.
Right. Yeah.
Like
It can take a while. I lost my mom a couple of years back, so I get it.
yeah.
So that's interesting because one of the things that you are also doing is, you've pursued a business, right? You're also an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And obviously that's going to take away time as well. But also I'm thinking it must influence your life, because you've already said, you're basically a sponge who's absorbing everything and
Mhm.
turning it into your creative process. So I'm wondering, how has being a business person and growing a business, being an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
how has that strengthened or changed your creative process? And also, how has it changed your view of success and what success means?
Oh, wow. I really hope we can separate those questions because, well, let me start with the success portion first. Uh, my idea of success was was just shaped through part of my like spiritual journey, and for me, like being successful is it's the idea of being able to acquire anything or its equivalent without violating the rights of other people. Um, that's my idea of being a success.
Mm.
If I wake up in the morning and I say, hey, I want to buy this building here on the beach, like I want to be able to do it without having to uh, violate the rights of anybody. Like if this is a
Wish
neighborhood
more
that,
people had that view of success.
Yeah.
yeah, that's my idea of being successful. Now that I had to answer that question backwards because I just want to make sure I got that point out. Um, being an entrepreneur, I really didn't ask for this, but I did. So it's just kind of like, it's just like, um, that's a tough one, Alec, just to be quite honest. That's one of those things I'm still trying to figure out. And even my mentors, I mean, I have people who are 20, 30 years, 40 years older than me that I'm extremely close to, and they're still trying to figure it out. Like how do you say like, oh, music is extremely important to me, um, as is the business of music, as is the business of networking or marketing and promotions, strategic partnership, brand extension initiatives. Like, just how do you just say all of it's important? and then wake up and then like carve out your day, like, and be in the flow of life at the same time. Quite honestly, in my own opinion, I think it's impossible.
Mm.
And I am an optimistic person. I mean, I say that in spirit and in truth as it relates to me. Nothing negative about it. I truly think it's impossible because being in the flow of life might dictate that like tomorrow between 4 and 6, which might have been the days that I carve out for marketing and promotion. Maybe the universe says between 4 and 6, being in the Dominican Republic, that maybe the power goes out on the island between 4 and 6. So then what do you do, right? Or I mean, it's a myriad of things that business and structure, and then also being in the flow of life. I don't know, in my opinion, and maybe that's my growth opportunity right now is to. Do you guys see where I'm going with this?
I
Like,
do. I absolutely
yeah,
see where you're going with this.
100%. Yeah, I get it. I get it. But here's the thing that then I want to know. So, I mean, you've won a bunch of awards, you've toured, charted, you were in Cleveland, you went to New York, now you've strategically moved to the Caribbean. I'm wondering, given how you've progressed and grown through the years, how have your environments and your achievements and accomplishments shaped your process of creating?
wow, yeah. So environments, that's 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 something that will test your, like, how contrived your process is, because your environment, it will change all the time, but can you stay the same?
Mm.
Can you bring the same intensity to writing a song, whether you're writing it in a multi-million dollar studio, or you're writing it in your apartment, or you're writing it, in a car on the side of the road because of a snowstorm, and and like, it's like, are you gonna bring that same intensity and just awareness and idea of just surrendering to the process? Like, are you gonna do that no matter where you are? I mean, I think it's just similar to the ask, what God may ask of us. And I'll just say this, just, I'm not like a Bible toting Christian, I'm really not. Not that there's anything wrong with that if I were. However, I'm a believer, and I do, in my opinion, it's like the only ask is just like, no matter what the scoreboard looks like, do you still believe that what's integral to you is still working, even though you can't see it?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I
Like,
absolutely know what you
I
mean. And I kind of
do,
feel like
yeah.
that's sort of cracked wide open what your process is. And it was sparked originally by what Ali said about you sort of being a sponge. But I think it's even more than that. It's just allowing yourself
Just
to be
being in the
open
flow,
and
just
being
like,
in the flow and open
yeah.
to letting yourself be that vessel that we talked about earlier, to tell the story, to go in whatever direction you're being sent down to, and trusting that you're being sent on the right path.
Yeah, but
mhm,
so I have another question.
mhm.
So one of the things that I talk about in my sort of other life doing motivational stuff is playing the pause. And when I use that expression, I take it from music, and I say the pause is just as important as the musical notes to the overall quality of the piece of music and to life in general, and having to, recharge, restore, recreate. But if you look at it, the pause is the silence. And I'm wondering, what is your relationship to silence like? And how does that influence how you create the noise?
So, great question. I mean, I would say that the silence is is something that you don't always know what to do with, particularly in our environment in the U.S. Um, we are conditioned to think that if we're not going all the time, that we're lazy, or we're not working hard enough, and it's like, oh, the only thing that's gonna get you to any destination is hard work, and hard work alone. And it's just like, if you're not, get up earlier, you gotta do this. And I subscribe to that because it's true. And but I also subscribe to, you know, um, silence. I think solitude is a gift. And I think that I've learned the most about myself in solitude. I mean, it is a gift. I mean, at the end of the day, there's no way for you to know who you are if you are constantly uh, around other people and other environments, and you're constantly like becoming a chameleon under the guise of networking, or you got to be a part of this crew so that you can network, and from this relationship could come another opportunity. And so you have a lot of people who are just constantly just changing and changing. You spend your whole life changing 10 times a day. You're in this meeting, you act this way. You're in that meeting, you act that way. You're in this room with these people, you act that way, because in your mind, you have to become who those people are accustomed to, so that they like you, and so that you have favor with those people, so that they in turn will do favors for you, or do business with you, or whatever. I mean, the whole thing is just based on this, like, um, just opportunistic, like, how do I become what someone's looking for,
Mhm.
instead of like, how do I just be who I am?
Yeah. Yeah, that I think that ties really, really beautifully back to what your answer to the other one was, which was, you don't worry about what the audiences think.
Yeah.
I have a couple of other questions. Like, what is something that is completely non-musical that has had a big impact on how you create? It has nothing to do with music.
Wow. Being a painter, it's ironic. I used to paint cars, and when painting a car, it's such a meticulous process. I mean, it's like you gotta clean the car, and then sometimes you gotta prime the car, then you have to sand the primer, then you have to blow the car off, and then you gotta pull the car into the spray booth. And sometimes, depending on what type of booth you have to put a little water on the floor to try to catch dirt particles, and then you have to spray the car, or then you have to clear coat the car after you spray the base coat, and then you have to put it under the dryer. And it's like, it's just this whole thing of like delayed gratification in tandem with like urgency and like intentionality, because you have to paint the car within a certain amount of time, right? It's like you can't just spray the primer and then like spray the car right away. So you have to do this, and then you have to let it sit. But again, there's this window of opportunity that's going to be ideal for the proper adhesion of the paint and the chemicals and all that kind of stuff. So, um, without getting too far on a tangent, I think to answer your question is, when I started recording in digital audio workstations, and the idea of all this stuff on the screen, it's like, oh, you're trying to get this idea out. It's like, so here's the vocal, here's the guitar, and here's this and that. And like having the patience, and then the skill, um and the structure to be able to organize a session and go through the whole process, like, all of that came from other periods of my life. Like, I was a wrestler, I was very disciplined. Wrestling taught me more than anything in life has ever taught me, actually, because when you're a wrestler, it's all about, like, you're the only person out there. You can train with other people, but there's nobody out there with you. Like when you get out there in the ring, like that's it. It's like it's it's all you. So um I just think a lot of the discipline, structure, and the idea of like eating an elephant one bite at a time, that's something that I learned from like lifting weights, being a wrestler, being a salesman, being a hustler, like just kind of like being willing to do any kind of job and then like taking whatever I learned from that job and rolling that over into this other thing, because a lot of things are applicable, but it depends on the vessel. It depends on the person. I know plenty of people who've worked all the same jobs that I've worked who would never start a record company or who would never start a cigar business, or like they would just never do it because for whatever reason that connection is not there for them. But for me, like I could mop a floor, and I'm telling you, I would be thinking about how I'm sanding a car when I'm mopping the floor, so that I can make sure that I'm not missing a spot. And it's crazy, but it's just you know, um, I could be quoting this wrong, but I think it was not Wallace Waddles. It was Booker T. Washington said that like if he mopped the floor, like you're gonna know that he mopped the floor.
Mm.
That like that idea of like how I do anything is how I do everything. Like it's kind of like that,
Yeah.
That's just so much more and so different from where I thought you were going with this. I love this answer. So when you started talking about the car and the process, I was thinking he's going to go like it's a very detailed, each step builds on the next, and instead you went with like having the patience and taking the time, but also it's an urgent process and like balancing that
And learning from
and
everything
from
that
every
you do.
step, and then
Yeah.
translating that to the wrestling. I think that really informs your entire process. It's like
It
it's
really
more than
does.
just
Yeah.
absorbing everything. It's really
It's
layering.
actively taking it in.
It's actively taking
Yeah.
it in, and it's really like absorbing yourself in whatever the activity or moment
Immersing.
is. Immersing.
That's what it is.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
I just
it.
always think that
Love
there's
that.
always like, I I think that there's just always multiple truths happening. Always. And then it's just like you have the people who are like just on this side of the truth, you have the people who are on that side of the truth, and you have the people who understand that there are two truths working at the same time. And yes, both things are in fact true. 100% true. Like, what time is it where you're at? Right now it's 6:06 or p.m. here, wherever I am, right? And it's maybe 5:06 p.m. where you are. Both of those things are true.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like an
I
Einstein
mean,
theory of relativity.
Exactly.
it's just, I think when we're born in our native environment, we're born into like just like what we know. Like, it's like there's like one truth, and it's just like this is my home, these are my parents, this is who take care of me. Like this is the time they tell me to go to bed, this is the time they feed me. Like this is our family dog. This is what it looks like when I go outside. But it's just like as you get older and you have the ability to accept more or reject more as time goes on, and the more that you accept, the more you challenge your native belief system and you begin to develop your own belief system based on exposure, and so, and then also just your tolerance for receiving information that's different than what you're accustomed to.
Yeah. Exactly.
To
Antoine,
this levels.
musician, Antoine Dunn, musician, entrepreneur, and
Philosopher. There we go.
Yes,
Look
finally.
at that.
Finally,
Yes.
I've been working my whole career to like I'm like, hey, can I just do an interview where someone can ask the right questions, so they could be like, yo, this dude actually, he's lived a little bit of life. Like you got some really good questions. So
Well, thank you.
There
Thank
we
you.
go. Add that one to your
Appreciate your
multi-hyphenate
multi-hyphenate.
career
Absolutely.
already. There
All
we
right.
go.
So I want
yeah,
to ask my fun question now. Are you ready?
oh God,
There's no wrong
yes.
answer. There's no wrong answer.
I'm always ready. I'm ready for whatever. Give it to
All
me
right, here
straight.
it is. If your music was a physical space that people could walk into, what would it look like and what soundtrack would be playing?
Mm,
You like that one?
That's a crazy one.
that's a good one. This is what I would say. Have you guys ever seen, like, I know they have them like in Dubai and some places throughout the Caribbean and other places around the world where you have these hotel rooms that are underwater
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen those.
Yes.
and it's completely immersive. I mean, it's like you can go cook your dinner and there's sharks swimming by. I mean, there would be no sharks in my environment, right? Um, but the idea that everything will be flowing, like I would say it would just be surrounded by water because again, the idea of my music is just that if you're not in the flow of life, then the music does not have the authentic purity that I would like for it to have. So, we're all flowing, whether we realize it or not. You can fight the current, but you're still flowing. You're just gonna flow sideways, until you just surrender and say, "Okay, God, you're taking me this way." So, and then you just go back, start flowing the way you're supposed to flow anyway. So, I would like for if there were an environment, it would be underwater, and it would be peaceful, and the soundtrack would be um wow. Is the soundtrack like one song or is it like
No, there's no
uh
wrong
It can be
answer. It's
whatever you want
whatever.
it to
It's
be.
you. This is you.
um I would say it would be the complete musical vocabulary like of my whole life though.
Wow.
So I mean like symphony orchestra, like choral music, R&B music, Motown, I mean, dramatic, stylistic, Shy Lights, Stevie Wonder. Like, I mean, just it will be everything, and then it would be my music too, of course, right?
Of course.
Like my
Nice
music would have to be
answer.
playing.
That is such a good
Such a
answer.
good
And I feel
answer.
like it's such a
Love
good way
that.
to wrap things up. Antoine, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been
Thank
awesome.
you.
I want to pass the mic over to you. Let folks know where to keep up with you. Anything you've got going on, the floor's yours.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for having me. For all the people out there who may have enjoyed this interview or who are curious about my work or my music, I always say Instagram is the best place to go. Obviously, I'm like a 3 or 4 trick pony. I got a lot of things going on. But as it relates to music, Instagram.com/I am Antoine Dunn. Um, Oh, and Harvey Marie Records, Harvey Marie Brands, Harvey Marie Premium Cigars. Um, those are all things that are very important to me. So if you go to my Instagram page, if you just deep dive, you'll find everything. So yeah, and then on YouTube, our Harvey Marie Records page. We have a new artist that we're going to be releasing pretty soon, and so um, we are where good music lives. That's what we say. So Harvey Murray Records, where good music lives. So yeah, but that's it.
Wonderful.
Where good music
Wonderful.
lives. I love that.
Antoine, thank you so much for coming on the show. This has been a blast.
Yeah, thank you so much. This has been great. I'm so glad you could be here with us.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. And we got to do it again, maybe next year or something.
Maybe next
Absolutely.
year. Sounds
Yeah,
good.
we'll have you back
All right.
on.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you, Antoine.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
So what'd you think?
Oh, that was great. Antoine, I really like that you added philosopher to the end for Antoine, because it's so true. He gave so many really, really fascinating and insightful just nuggets in there. And the little quotes that he threw in, I loved those.
Love those. I especially loved the one about, wait, I wrote it down. An opportunity of a lifetime in the lifetime of that opportunity. I think that's a philosophy that really everybody, it's a carpe diem. It's a seize the day. It's a take advantage of the here and now. It's a beautiful, it's an eloquent turn of phrase for that sentiment that I really enjoy. And he's very in tune. Like, he's very in tune with himself and with the flow of his music. And I love how he has come to it so, to use his words, organically or authentically. I mean, it really has found him. I was very serious when I said the universe is conspiring to help him succeed, because he really seems to have a calling, and he's listening and answing.
And it's all about putting good into the world and having good come back. You know, his whole thing, I loved his answer about what success is, and you know, basically growing without harming anyone else.
Others.
I think that's such a rare perspective, and I really like that a lot.
What a place the world would be if everybody not only believed that but lived it.
Yes, and put that into their action.
Yeah. But I love also how his process is very much. It's actually very, he's go with the flow, all the rest of it, but at the same time, he's got that, you know, the car painting philosophy where he's building layers, and it's a very meticulous, detailed kind of approach that is sort of everything coming out all at once, and yet also having to be very measured.
Exactly. But and also just you know, the care and the dedication to his work, the Booker T. Washington quote that he threw out. I love that. There was so much in here. I feel like this is one that people could like listen to 2 or 3 times
and get more
and more out of it each time. Come back to it as a resource. And I think that would be.
There was another quote he had at the end, and I didn't write it down in the moment, and it's gone, which is a shame. I'll look forward to it.
So we'll have to watch it back, and
I will watch it back, because it was a really good one, and one that I would like to, you know, me and my stickies.
Exactly. But thank you everyone for watching or listening this time around with our great interview with Antoine Dunn. We hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and we hope you join us again next week, because we've got another exciting guest for you. So in the meantime, make sure to like, subscribe, turn on your post notifications wherever you are watching or listening to this podcast, so you never miss a new upload. And with all that being said, Allie,
follow us and follow Antoine and his musical journey on Instagram and on his YouTube station. You won't be sorry. Until then, we'll see you next time on So What's Your Process?
Bye-bye.